Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THM School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I'll recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Banda Khalifa, a PhD student at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and an MPH MBA Summer Scholar alum. I've navigated the graduate school application process, gaining admission into institutions like Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and Johns Hopkins. And now I'm here to help you on your journey. Remember, the journey to graduate school may seem tough, but with the right tools and mindset, you'll be on your way to success. Don't forget to check out my other videos for more tips and insights. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing forward. Dr. Banda signing off.
Hello everyone, I am Emmanuel Animashan. I'm a Nigerian physician. I met Dr. Banda sometime last year. I remember I had a very difficult time trying to prepare my application packages to schools of public health in the United States, and I went online in search of information, and then I came across his LinkedIn profile. I remember I connected with him, and then I spent a long day going through his profile, and I found really very interesting things where he had shared insights into a lot of the application, a lot of components of the application process. I also eventually got to follow his YouTube account. I saw a lot of videos, and I saw that he had a lot of stuff that were quite inspiring. For one, I liked the fact that he had gone through the process. He had really nice admission offers when he was going to move to the United States, and that gave me some sort of assurance that he had gone through it, and I could as well go through the same process that he had gone through using the advice that he had given. It was really helpful. He also organized a couple of live sessions, I remember, where he brought in faculty, people who were in charge of admissions in some of these schools, and that was really very helpful for me. And I followed this process, basically I followed through with everything that he recommended, and I got really good results. At the end of the application cycle, I got admitted into Johns Hopkins University, Harvard, Yale, Emory, and I mean, those were I really didn't apply to much schools because I sort of believed in the processes that he had outlined, and I got admitted into the schools that I applied to, and I got really good scholarship offers too. I eventually chose to come to Hopkins, where I'm currently enrolled in the MPH dual degree program, and I must say it was also very helpful in selecting which school I would eventually come to, because I had a really tough time trying to decide. When you have really good offers, you have a hard time deciding, and it was very helpful. I recommend that everyone who is applying to schools of public health or to graduate school generally in the United States should definitely follow Dr. Banda on his LinkedIn, his YouTube, follow him everywhere, and you can be rest assured that he's always ready to answer your questions and attend to your concerns. You don't even have to necessarily always speak with him. Just by following his pages and following up with the activities, you definitely are on a good path. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ama Isuman, and I'm a physician from Ghana. 2 years ago, I decided to apply for the dual degree MPH and MBA at Hopkins. So I went onto the Hopkins website and looked for current and past students who had gone through the program. And I was happy to see a Ghanaian face there. I saw Dr. Banda on the Hopkins website. So I looked him up on LinkedIn, reached out to Dr. Banda on LinkedIn, because I had specific questions about the dual degree MBA MPH program here and about the summer scholarship as well, because I was interested in, he was doing the program under the summer scholarship. He answered my questions, helped me assess my fit for the program, and down the line also talked me through how to communicate with school officials with some of the different questions I had, and who to talk to as well. So fast forward, today I'm here at Hopkins, a dual degree student pursuing my MBA and MPH. I'm a summer scholar and I go into all the schools I applied to. So if you're thinking of applying for graduate school here, whether it's an MPH or a PhD program, I recommend watching his videos on YouTube and LinkedIn because they have very helpful information in there. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THM School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I'll recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Banda Khalifa, a PhD student at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and an MPH MBA Summer Scholar alum. I've navigated the graduate school application process, gaining admission into institutions like Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and Johns Hopkins. And now I'm here to help you on your journey. Remember, the journey to graduate school may seem tough, but with the right tools and mindset, you'll be on your way to success. Don't forget to check out my other videos for more tips and insights. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing forward. Dr. Banda signing off.
Hello everyone, I am Emmanuel Hanimashan. I'm a Nigerian physician. I met Dr. Banda sometime last year. I remember I had a very difficult time trying to prepare my application packages to schools of public health in the United States, and I went online in search of information, and then I came across his LinkedIn profile. I remember I connected with him, and then I spent a long day going through his profile, and I found really very interesting things where he had shared insights into a lot of the application, a lot of components of the application process. I also eventually got to follow his YouTube account. I saw a lot of videos, and I saw that he had a lot of stuff that were quite inspiring. For one, I liked the fact that he had gone through the process. He had really nice admission offers when he was going to move to the United States, and that gave me some sort of assurance that he had gone through it, and I could as well go through the same process that he had gone through using the advice that he had given. It was really helpful. He also organized a couple of live sessions. I remember where he brought in faculty, people who were in charge of admissions in some of these schools, and that was really very helpful for me. And I followed this process. Basically, I followed through with everything that he recommended, and I got really good results. at the end of the application cycle, I got admitted into Johns Hopkins University, Harvard, Yale, Emory. And I mean, those were like, I really didn't apply to much schools because I sort of believed in the processes that he had outlined. And I got admitted into the schools that I applied to. And I got really good scholarship offers too. I eventually chose to come to Hopkins, where I'm currently enrolled in the MPH dual degree program. And I must say, it was also very helpful in selecting which school I would eventually come to, because I had a really tough time trying to decide. When you have really good offers, you have a hard time deciding, and it was very helpful. I recommend that everyone who is applying to schools of public health or to graduate school generally in the United States should definitely follow Dr. Banda on his LinkedIn, his YouTube, follow him everywhere, and you can be rest assured that he's always ready to answer your questions and attend to your concerns. You don't even have to necessarily always speak with him. Just by following his pages and following up with the activities, you definitely are on a good path. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ama Isuma PH. I'm a summer scholar and I go into all the schools I applied to. So if you're thinking of applying for graduate school here, whether it's an MPH or a PhD program, I recommend watching his videos on YouTube and LinkedIn because they have very helpful information in there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's event. This is the Scholars Table. I'm your host, Dr. Banda Khalifa. Today, I'm really excited to welcome one of our professors from Hopkins. So if this is your first time joining us, as I've said, this is the Scholars Table. We are currently live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So on this platform, all we do is talk about graduate school application, whether at the master's level or at the PhD level. We also talk about life outside of academia and also within academia. So if you're a prospective applicant or student, or even if you're a graduate student, this is your channel to watch. I would like to introduce our guest today. We are very honored to have Professor Elizabeth Stuart. So she's a professor of biostatistics and the chair of the Department of Biostatistics here at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Her main interest is in causal inference, which I must say I've been privileged to take some of her classes, and I really enjoyed it. And she also works on public and mental health policy as well as educational policy. I wouldn't want to bore you so much with all her accolades. I would kindly invite her, and then we can get the conversation started. So without much ado, Professor Stuart, we are live. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's really great to be here. I appreciate all the work you're doing on this. So happy to be involved. Thank you
so much. So I mean, to some of us, when we think about biostatistics, immediately we get scared about it, right? Whether you love maths or not, the term statistics scares a lot of people. So, in your own journey, what has been your personal journey like? How did you find out that you love maths so much in order to even get a PhD in biostatistics?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it does. I am one of those people who liked math from the beginning. In fact, when I was a kid and stuff, I always knew I probably would want to major in math in college. My issue was that I liked math, but I also wanted to kind of make a difference in the world and sort of use math for social good, broadly defined. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that. So I was a math major in college, pure math, and it was a small college. There wasn't, like, public health didn't exist, biostatistics didn't exist. So then I worked for a couple of years at a research firm, a sort of public policy research firm, and realized that statistics was a great way to kind of bring math to the real world, in a sense, and be able to do math, but again, sort of for social good purposes. So yeah, then I decided to go do a PhD in statistics and worked again at this public policy research firm for a couple of years. And then I found my way to Hopkins in 2006, where I've been ever since. But, I joke because I have no formal training in mental health or public health, but I've somehow found my way to it, which has been great.
Wow. So apart from working in a consulting firm, how long have you been working in academic setting?
Yeah, so I did, after my PhD, which was 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. I finished that in 2004, and then I've been at Johns Hopkins since 2006, so about 17 years, and all at Hopkins the whole time.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Hopkins is really privileged to have you, all the work that you've been doing. So my channel really is to help prospective applicants, typically from developing countries and elsewhere, particularly Africa and Asia, to kind of help guide them through the graduate school journey for those who want to either do masters or a PhD, to give them like first-hand knowledge on exactly what programs require for them to be strong candidates. So I would like us to dive straight into some of the critical issues that departments look for in terms of masters and PhD. But before I continue, I want to know what specific programs. I know, like, the Department of Biostatistics is collaborative, so students from different departments can apply, can take courses in the Department of Biostatistics. Is there a particular course that is reserved for only students doing biostatistics? In other words, what are the specific programs that department offers?
Yeah, so we, the Department of Biostatistics has two main programs. One is a PhD program, and the other is an SCM 2-year master's program. And I can talk more about each of them as we go along, but broadly, those are the two programs. And certainly there's a lot of courses offered by the department that are not necessarily restricted to students in those programs, but are really targeted for students in those programs. So, like the Biostat PhD program has courses on statistical theory and probability and some of those mathematical underpinnings. And, not a lot of other students at the school want to take those classes, although sometimes they do. And so they're not restricted, but they really are targeted for our master's and PhD students.
Okay, good. So they are mainly, so if someone is to apply to maybe Department of Biostatistics, so there are two programs, the SCM and then the PhD in biostatistics. Okay. So in general, I know, like, some of these requirements cut across departments in terms of statement of purpose or in terms of recommendation letters and other things. But in general, what does the department look for in prospective applicants? So what are some of the elements you look for in a person's application?
Yeah. So let me actually first add one thing, which is I realized, just to make for the audience, they might also be interested. The school also has the MPH program, and there is an epidemiology and biostatistics sort of track within the MPH. And so it's not in the department, but it is a way for some people to also focus on biostat within the MPH. So, but I'm not I'm not sort of as directly involved because that's part of the PhD program rather than the department. So our programs, just to give a little bit of additional context, our PhD program has about 10 students per year, and our SCM program is also quite small, about 15 students per year. So they're both small. We sort of like to keep kind of that intimate feel. We really get to know the students. They really get to, all of them do research projects with faculty. And I say that just because there are other biostatistics programs around the US, at least, that are big, and sort of this is one, just I think, distinguishing feature of our program is it tends to be sort of small. Our program also tends to be a little bit sort of, this is evolving, but a little bit heavier on the sort of math theory side of things. So basically, so our applications, just as you said, it's research or sort of a personal statement, transcripts from undergrad and maybe master's degrees if someone already has a master's, recommendation letters, all of that. One of the things that is specific to Biostat is that you really need to have calculus coming in, at least calculus level instruction in math before starting our programs. So that is one thing we look for, is to make sure that applicants have had calculus and have done well in their math and statistics courses to this point, just to make sure that they would have the right background coming in.
Okay. So these are for yeah. So I remember that even those applying to MPH, it is recommended that you have some basic level calculus, because as you mentioned, once you are in the MPH program, you will be required to take one of the Biostat series, whether like the 610, aka the baby Biostats, or the 620s or the 650s. So I think that is understood. So I know the MPH doesn't require GRE, but if someone is to apply directly to the Department of Biostatistics and a person doesn't have any background in, say, calculus, would GRE be something that they can replace it with?
Replace the calculus requirement? No, I think like because the problem, the GRE might indicate someone doing very well, and the GRE might indicate that they are very well prepared in general for graduate school. The problem is like they really need the particular content of the sort of more advanced math classes. But it is the sort of thing, I think, if someone wants to go into biostatistics and apply, maybe it's the kind of thing to take a course online or find some way, even if it wasn't something they did during their previous programs, there might be opportunities to kind of beef that up and take a class or two kind of on the side in preparation.
Okay. So in terms of personal statements, right? What are some of the key elements that admission committee look for in personal statements? What kind of narrative are they looking to hear from prospective applicants?
I'll speak, really just speaking for myself, as hard to speak for committees as a whole, but speaking for myself, I'm always looking, and I think this is true though for others, really looking for someone who's thought through what they want to do and sort of making the case that this is the right, this program and our school is the right next step for them. Sort of, those like sort of not just kind of applying everywhere and throwing it out, but sort of really thinking through, okay, why Hopkins? Why biostatistics? And so some of that reflection of where do they want to go with their career? Are there particular faculty members? This is particularly true for PhD, but also the SCM. Are there particular faculty members that they want to work with? And part of that is to make sure it is a good fit. If a student sort of articulates some goal for their lives that just is not what our program is going to prepare them well for, that's not going to help them or us. And so wanting to just like use the personal statement as a way to articulate what they've, sort of how they got where they got, and then why they think that this is really the next step for them, and kind of, again, how it's going to really help them with where they want to go. I think related to that, within a school of public health, is that commitment to public health and sort of that passion to make a difference in the world. Because, there are statistics programs all around. And so I think we're often looking for the people who are also really committed to and passionate about public health.
Yeah, I think that is really striking. So, what I take from this is that we are looking for students who can demonstrate some level of fit for the program, and also being clear about their goals and how the program kind of helps them achieve those goals. And I'm sure you've reviewed countless statement of purposes. What are some of the common mistakes that you've identified in reviewing statement of purpose from prospective applicants?
I think, the sort of general, just being a little too vague and kind of broad. Oh, I want to study statistics just because. I try to be patient or something. But sometimes they will leave the name of another university in the statement. So, do a controlled search and avoid that. But it's sort of that, or they'll just, if the personal statement just doesn't connect back to why biostatistics, why Hopkins, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I remember a mentee of mine worked 3 months putting together one personal statement, and then eventually he realized that he has used Hopkins for all the schools. So he had to send an email to every school to replace his personal statement. That was really scary, but eventually I think they left him out of the hook, so he was good. So in terms of recommendation letters, if you're to kind of grade them or arrange them in order of importance, I know most departments will say they don't usually do that, but how do you weigh the importance of recommendation letters in the application process?
I personally weigh them quite a bit, actually, because they really give sort of a lens into what a student has done, especially when the recommendation letter is written by someone sort of who knows the field of biostatistics and sort of knows what it's like to do a PhD in biostatistics. And if that letter can comment on the student's drive and ability and experiences that will set them up well for doing the PhD, that's really powerful. Even better if, there's always, I think, a tension of sort of, do you ask someone to write a letter who knows you really well but doesn't know the field, or it is a balance. You kind of want both. But it is helpful if the letter writer maybe even was at Hopkins or a peer institution, and again can sort of comment on their experience with similar students and how they've succeeded, but also combining that with the personal details of kind of why this student is stellar, and sort of examples of how their interactions and sort of why this student really is should be admitted.
Yeah, and I think you've mentioned something quite important that a lot of people tend to overlook. Finding someone, I mean, if you can find someone who knows the field, it's usually better than someone who has no idea about the field of biostatistics, and the person is just writing a generic recommendation letter. So listeners, you've heard. So if you're searching for recommenders, try and get people who first know you very well, and also at least have some experience in a particular field that you are applying to. I guess you've kind of answered my next question about what elements in the recommendation letter that usually makes it strong. I know people, some people write like 2-page recommendation letters, others write half a page. But what elements do you think makes a recommendation letter really stand out?
I would say when it's targeted for the thing they're applying for, in our case, a biostat program, and has those specific elements that connect it. Examples of the homework assignment or examples of the student, coming to office hours regularly, really a drive to learn, that kind of those. Sometimes the letters can be useful for sort of identifying those personal characteristics that are
Mm-hmm.
hard to convey, they don't come through in a transcript or a resume, but just that the sort of the comments about someone's motivation, their drive, their abilities, their interpersonal skills, sort of, again, the stuff that paper resumes and things just really don't
Yeah.
hit, is really what we look for in the recommendation letters.
Okay. So I know we've spoken about who is in the best position to provide recommendation letters, but in your opinion, from which category of people should students ideally seek recommendation letters? Is it from recent professors or past professors or current employers? What, like, is there a specific criteria, i.e., the qualification of the person, the field that the person is working on, and for example, how long the person has been working with you?
I like to think of it sort of holistically, of like, mostly will often be looking for three reference letter writers,
Mm-hmm.
and so kind of thinking about like what is each person going to be contributing, and they might be complementary to one another. So there might be
Okay.
one who is the former professor from a previous degree, who can talk about that, and then another might be the current employer, if someone's in the workforce already, who can talk about their work ethic. And even if it's not as related to the content, it sort of gets at those aspects. So I think when an implication of that is that when applicants are looking for letter writers, I would encourage them to think about, again, sort of the set of letter writers and how they can complement each other, and then what they want each person to sort of be commenting on, and sort of give instructions, say, okay, I hope you can really be focused on my research experience during undergraduate, and I hope you can be really focused on this. It's less helpful to have like three professors who all kind of say the same thing and had the same experience. It's going to be more impactful to have these kind of different lenses into what someone has done, and what their path might look like.
Okay. So if for example, let's say I'm applying to Department of Biostatistics, how would the department view recommendation letters from interdisciplinary sources? For example, if I have a professor from Department of, say, medicine or biology or computer science, how does the department view those recommendations compared to a recommendation from a professor in biostatistics?
Again, I think it's sort of that like mix of the letters. So we'd want at least one letter from someone who can comment on the biostatistics aspects of someone's experience. But then often those letters from someone from an adjacent field are really useful to get a sense like, okay, here's a student who maybe really knows the math and statistics side, and
Mm-hmm.
also can communicate and can collaborate or can bring ideas from biology. And we've actually had a number of really excellent students who were like biology undergrads who had taken some math, and they then used the PhD to sort of combine their biology and math training to sort of make advances. So I think, again, there it's they're certainly really valuable, especially when they kind of come in combination with maybe a letter or two from a more quantitative person.
Okay. So I know for the Department of Public Health, most times they are looking for people with some form of work experience. Is that the case for the Department of Biostatistics? Are you looking for people who have had some prior work experience, even if it's not related to biostatistics?
Not necessarily. So we do have quite a few students, especially for the SCM program. Quite a few students come straight from undergrad. Our PhD program, some come straight from undergrad, others have taken a few years to work. I will say I myself took 2 years in between undergrad and graduate school. And I'm a big fan of that, and for two reasons. First is I think it often means that those students are better able to articulate why they want to do a PhD. Sort of really, it's sort of a more thoughtful. They've sort of had time, they've explored some area, and now often their personal statements are stronger because of that experience. I also think that work experience is really useful once you're in a PhD program, because PhD programs are tough. It's really nice to sort of, like, I remember when I was in graduate school, I was like, well, if I fail out, I can go, I know that there's a world outside of academia. I know that I can go back and do that job I was doing before. And it was great. And it gave me sort of a level of perspective that I think was really useful as a PhD student. So I am a big fan actually of working for a couple of years in between, unless someone like really knows exactly what they want to do and they are like on a fast pace. But I think there's huge value in taking some time to explore something and maybe work a little bit in between. But it's certainly not a requirement for the program.
Okay. I think one other challenge that is most often faced by international students is in the area of funding or scholarships. I know that the MPH program has at least some sort of funding for international students. How is the program in your department like? The master's and the PhD level, are there available funding for these programs, and how are they like?
Yeah, so our PhD program is easy. It's fully funded. There's also stipend guaranteed for 5 years. So 5 years of guaranteed tuition and stipend. There is teaching assistants and research assistants. So the students do, there's some work expectations as part of the program, but there is funding also. The master's program is a little complicated. In general, there are not great scholarships. I wish there were more. In the second year, the second year tuition is sort of lower than the first year tuition. And so that can help a little bit sort of look when you think about the total. And we have a few scholarships for SCM students, but again, I wish we had more, and hope that we can eventually.
Yeah, but is it like a need-based scholarship or is it a merit-based scholarship? How is it typically awarded?
Oh, it's mostly merit-based. And the other note I will say is most of our SCM students work as research assistants during their degree, and so they can make some money as sort of 10 or 20 hours per week in research assistantship to help at least on the living expenses side of things.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we are a little bit over half past our scheduled time. We currently have almost 90 people on LinkedIn watching and almost 20 on YouTube. So thanks to everybody for joining, and thank you to Professor Stuart for joining us today. I'll pick some few questions from the audience, and then we can move to the second phase of the interview. So I have a question from Toby Loba, who's a medical doctor. So his question is, can a medical doctor who did biostatistics in medical school apply to the SCM program?
It would depend on what classes you've actually taken. So if in medical school or some other program you had taken calculus and linear algebra is another prerequisite course requirement. So it really just depends on if you would have had those sort of slightly higher level math classes already. But certainly if you have, you'd be welcome to apply.
Okay. And there's a question on YouTube. The person says, I'm a nurse, but I'm interested in biostatistics. Can I apply straight from undergrad for the PhD?
Yes. Again, yeah, there's no requirement of work experience for the PhD program. The main requirement would be the whether you've had the coursework, prerequisite coursework. I guess back actually, as I reflect too on the previous question about the MD, that's also where the Epi and Biostat MPH program is a nice model. A lot of MD doctors who want to sort of get a foot into research and sort of learn a little bit of biostatistics and epidemiology, that MPH, Epi, and Biostat concentration is a really popular path. So I think the biostatistics degrees are really for people who, really want to be a statistician long term, like they want their career to be as a statistician. I think if you're someone who is, a nurse or a doctor, a pharmacist, and you want to sort of learn more about research and maybe do some research, I think that's where the MPH in the Epi Biostat concentration might actually be a better path.
Okay, I think that is clearly understood. So if you have a health background and you are a math freak or something, then you would want to apply for pure biostatistics. Someone is asking about research experience. Is it required for someone to have a publication before their PhD application?
It's not required. Certainly, to be a strong applicant, some research experience helps. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a published paper or something, but at least some experience to sort of know that the applicant has some sense of what research looks like and what research projects are. But it's not a formal requirement.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I think the next phase is to kind of help students, either prospective students or those who are currently in the program, navigate through the process of selecting biostatistics courses, right? So whether the person is in the MPH program or doing a PhD elsewhere, how can they assess the level of biostatistics they need for their research or career goals?
Yeah, it's a great and tough question, and it's tough because it would vary so much across different schools and universities. So it's hard to answer kind of in general. I think the way I would think about it is partly just to look at the prerequisites for each course, because that will give a sense for kind of are you ready for that course, and then if not, maybe it would give a sense for what classes to take to kind of get on that path. And I think a question, I think of often like 3 levels of courses very broadly. One might be sort of a data literacy in a sense. So people who are maybe MDs and they are consumers of research, they are consumers of statistical data, but they don't really maybe need to learn how to do statistics themselves. So that's one bucket. Another bucket are people who maybe want to learn how to do some basic statistics themselves. They want to learn, like, how do I run a regression? How do I do a t-test? How do I design a study? Like, how do I, design a randomized trial? And that's probably the most common. And then the third bucket are the people who want to be sort of more on the, cutting edge in a sense, or sort of really getting into like more sophisticated analyses, how to deal with missing data, or how to deal with different data structures and dealing with messy data. And I think sometimes too, those second and third categories, the other question is, one point I often make is also you can always collaborate with statisticians. And so
Yeah.
I think also that kind of learning enough to be familiar and to know kind of what questions to ask, but also to recognize when it makes sense to engage a collaborator who can sort of help really push things forward. So, and looking, in graduate school, maybe finding some biostatistician friends to collaborate with, and can bring the content knowledge and they bring some biostatistical knowledge, and everyone benefits.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, oftentimes I get students, recent MPH students come in and ask me, how like my experience with biostatistics. There seemed to be some misconception about, the level of difficulty and the fact that you really, really have to know some detailed concepts. In your experience, what are some of the misconceptions that, especially students from other departments, you've observed from students from other departments in terms of biostatistics?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think, sometimes I think a fundamental piece of biostatistics is uncertainty and recognizing uncertainty. And I think sometimes students without that training, it's often not a natural way of thinking in a sense. And so I think sometimes it's a matter of helping helping appreciate the role of uncertainty in both in data and in conclusions. I think sometimes people not trained in biostatistics at all, honestly, sometimes kind of overstate what we can really learn from data. And so I think kind of bringing in that side of like, well, what can we learn and what maybe is like, we just can't know for sure. And the role of science and uncertainty in all of that. So I think that's probably one of those pieces.
Great. So, I mean, within the School of Public Health, I know like we've all seen how there's rapid advancement in data science and machine learning and AI and everything. How is that changing, or how is that going to change, the delivery of biostatistics? How is the school getting ready to incorporate some of these new or evolving concepts so that at least students will be equipped with other skills to be able to make their work more efficient? Is there any particular course that is under development that delves into AI?
We have a lot of classes already that we offer now that really cover those topics. So we have faculty that have been doing machine learning research for years. We have a course on machine learning. Our Vadim Zapunikov is our main instructor of that course. So it's on prediction models. We've also for years have had a really strong data science set of courses and curriculum. And so we now, this is a few years ago, started, we've always sort of had a data science series for the biostat students, and they learn GitHub and they learn sort of other things. In the past few years, we've created another data science sequence that is taken by students from outside biostatistics as well to learn the basics of reproducible research. Yeah, these tools like GitHub, data management, data manipulation, a little bit of Python, sort of those sorts of approaches. So we've been actually offering that for quite a few years already. I do anticipate in the coming years that I think what will start to happen is some of those skills and sort of teachings will kind of move into some of the other courses. So some of our, like you mentioned, the 650 series or the 620 series, I think over time, some of the stuff that we are teaching in these other courses may start to trickle into some of those core biostat courses as well.
Okay. Great.
I think as statisticians, we're torn, because we also don't want to make sure that people get the foundations and the grounding in sampling and sort of the core aspects of, again, sort of statistical uncertainty. So trying to figure out how to do both.
Yeah, that's obviously true. So I think so. So the final session will kind of like talk through life in academia. I know. So I mean, these days I've seen a lot of people advocate for alternate routes from academia. So whilst I have you, maybe I would want to know, how has your experience in academia been in general? What are some of the things you love about academia?
Yeah, I love this question because I do love it. And I think sometimes academia gets a bad rap. And I will say I spent 4 years total at a non-academic research firm, and that was wonderful too. It was similar, I think, similar as in the School of Public Health, sense of mission, high quality research, really collegial and collaborative environment. What I missed about academia, and what I love about academia now that I'm back in it, is partly, just interactions like this, like students, and sort of that the rhythms of students coming through and making a difference for years of as new classes come through and new students. And then the other is the sort of freedom that we have. I mean, I have been able to take my career where I sort of want to take it. I've been able to work on research projects. Like, academics are often, in some sense, independent contractors. I sort of joke, like, it's kind of I don't really have a boss. I mean, I officially do, I guess, but it's very much an environment where, if I'm excited about some new research area, I can try to dive into it and try to find funding or write a paper. I've been able to kind of pivot my career a few times where I've sort of shifted what I've worked on to some extent. So I think just that flexibility and agency that we have as academics is really wonderful. So I've very much appreciated that.
I see. But I mean, some would say looking for your own funding seems a bit uncertain, or that there isn't that uncertainty in like knowing that. I know those like in industry and others would say that they know exactly how much you are getting at the end of the month in terms of compensation and other things. But if you're in academia, to an extent, something might depend on you getting funding and the pressure of publishing and all that.
Yeah, I think that I would just always encourage people to look at individual jobs and not sort of have like all academia is like this and all non-academic is like this, because I think my job actually in many ways is much more stable than some others. I'll just tell a little anecdote too. It was funny because years ago I was talking to a friend, like a neighborhood friend, and she works in human resources consulting. And right, in some ways people think my academic job is weird because I have to write grants and, kind of get funding to do research.
Yeah.
But this friend who works in consulting was like, what? We have to write proposals all the time. Like, of course you have to write proposals to get funding. Like, in her world, she was like, yeah, like that's very similar. And again, I think there is a difference with some, well, and even in her case, like she was only going to get promoted if she got, proposals funded. Through her HR consulting. Every job has expectations. Every job has milestones. It has assessments. It has sort of someone. And so I think academia has a certain way of doing that. Other jobs are going to have other. And so I think just I personally try to look for environments that are supportive that are with people that I want to work with and that have a sense of mission that I really agree and sort of resonates with me. And I think then sort of the rest follows in a sense. And again, any job is going to have expectations. And so the key is to find a place where you feel valued and where you, again, sort of connect with the work and the people in a way that's going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, I think that is profoundly said. My last question with regards to this particular area, I know a couple of people also advise that if you're going to move from academia, I mean, for those doing PhDs, if you want to go, for example, to industry, you can at least do your postdoc and then move to industry. Others also argue that, postdoc is not really necessary. Just, move when, as at the time you're graduating, you can move around that time. What sort of advice would you give, current PhD students who are either looking to stay or to move to industry specifically?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with postdocs. So I think postdocs are really wonderful from a professional perspective in the sense that they give, 2 more years to sort of explore something, you develop a new set of collaborations, a new set of partners, potentially a new research area. So I think they can be incredibly useful professionally. I think they can be really difficult personally. And, in that, like, you might have to move somewhere for 2 years and maybe you don't even make that much money. And a lot of people just don't have the flexibility to move for a short postdoc. So I think, that's where I'm sort of torn, where if you can swing it, I think postdocs can be really beneficial. And especially for someone who maybe isn't sure kind of what path they want to take. I think a postdoc can just give a little bit more time, a little bit more information about another environment to help make an informed decision moving forward.
Well, thank you so much for those words of wisdom. So I guess our time is up, and let me see if we have any more questions in the audience. Okay, so we have a question from Teresa, who is asking whether recommenders must be professors.
No, I would say you probably want at least one to be a professor, but I'm positive that when I applied for my PhD, I had a letter writer who was someone I was working for at the time, sort of a supervisor in my work environment. And I think that's great. So I think it kind of just depends on your experience, but they certainly do not all have to be faculty themselves.
Okay. Somebody says, I have a professional degree in laboratory medicine. I took courses in mathematics and physics as part of my curriculum. Will this suffice?
It probably would depend on the exact courses. So I think it would be a matter of looking at the transcript in detail. And in particular, if there would be, the linear algebra and calculus are really crucial.
Okay. All right. So I think that is all we have for today. Professor Stuart, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last words for prospective applicants, current students, recent graduates?
Just find what you're passionate about and follow that, and try to find, again, the environments that are going to help you thrive. And I think that will then carry you through well, and that will shine through in any application when it's the right next step for you. So good luck. Thank you so much for hosting this great series. I hope it's been useful for folks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you making time to be with us. We all can imagine how busy you are with work. So hopefully we'll get more time to chat later in future. So thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye. All right, folks. So if you joined us, I think this was an enlightening session on graduate school application, as well as talked a bit about scholarships and funding your graduate school, and a little bit of academia. Hopefully, those of you who are maths freaks and will love to do maths can apply directly to the Department of Biostatistics. It is also worth noting that even if you apply for MPH or a PhD in a different department in the School of Public Health, you are likely to take biostatistics courses. There are about 3 series. One is called the baby statistics. That is for those who don't want to have anything to do with maths in general. And there's an intermediate one, and there's an advanced level biostatistics for those who really want to know the foundational theory that underpins some of the concepts in maths. So this is the Scholars Table, and I've been your host. If you're new, kindly follow us on LinkedIn. Join our YouTube channel for more insightful content on graduate school application and scholarships. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.